constituted because they keep watch on each other, because everybody, even the people who are appointed judges, are Kenyans. And if you're saying that when you're elected member of parliament, then you become corrupt, then it tells to our core, it talks to us, we as a people. It's not parliament that corrupts you, it's our society that corrupts you. If we find that people are corrupt, if the president is corrupt, if the political class is corrupt, then it tells you that it talks to our core, because those people are elected by our society. So two things. One, President Ruto's first action as a president was to appoint the judges. You remember that on the day he was sworn in. And his work, and he said, and he talked about the judiciary very, very, very prominently. And he said he wants them to have the independence. The police service. We even removed the reliance of police service from executive. That is why they now run their own vote. Because the government of Kenya Kwanza envisaged a situation where everybody is going to do their work. But two things. If our law and our jurisprudence is dependent on what we make as a legislature in both the houses of the National Assembly, or the National Assembly and Senate, both houses of parliament, and also jurisprudence is filled and is given meat by court, like what we saw in the recent past. You know, things that the Constitution has not addressed very, very eloquently, and things that legislature has not done further legislation upon, and the courts made the decision. Before the swearing in of the deputy president, we had been in court. The president was stopped by a court in Kirinyaga and said, okay, fine, we have a court, let it be canvassed in court. And the issues were canvassed, and he agreed. It's the same thing, that if the executive tries to overreach or overreaches to the judiciary, it is wrong. It is the same thing if judiciary overreaches to the executive or legislature.
Do you agree that is the case right now, that there's judicial overreach?
We have had judicial overreach. We must be honest enough, because if you're here to whip emotions of Kenyans and tell them the way this government is bad and the way things are very bad, and then should just wrap up this country and then go. But if you're here to speak the truth and debate without emotions, there has been judicial overreach. In many instances.
Yes. Can you
for example, you remember, for example, we have been talking about CDF Act, all right? An act that has been passed with public participation. We have been to radio stations, we've been to a lot of places and called people and talked to the people during public participation and asked them, is this something that you want? And then every time it is put in place, then the courts overturn it, all right? That is complete judicial overreach. You know, if you have seen cases in this country where people are now used to getting what we call anticipatory bail, something that is completely can't be backed by our laws, that there's suspicion, that you have committed this, there's suspicion that you've committed this crime, and we have arms delegated or given the power by the Constitution to do those work, then the courts decide, no, you're not going to do that. You will not talk to that person. We've stopped you. We have had so many instances, and our courts are also wide. Courts are everywhere, and not most of the time what comes to us is what the Supreme Court does or what the High Court in Nairobi does. But we have many other instances of judicial overreach, and I say that with a lot of humility, because we all depend on the courts, and a lot of human rights especially have been protected by our courts. So we have had very good sides of the court, but we have some elements, and we must be honest enough to say it.
Yet there's definitely a platform to address, seek redress when you find that probably there's judicial overreach, the JSC. How come these complaints are not directed that way? Wanagakuya, do you agree with your colleague in the National Assembly that in some instances there's been judicial overreach, and therefore some of this criticism coming even from the president himself is warranted to the courts?
Let us agree that the mandate of the courts is purely to interpret the law. And there's no way you can force them to interpret the law to your side.